thank you everyone for tuning in. We are presenting this evening Astroturf Noise, who will be live scoring classic black and white Fleischer Studios cartoons. How are you all doing this evening?
Doing good.
Great. And where are all of you?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Also.
To get back to Brooklyn soon.
We missed Zach. We had to Photoshop you in when we went to Prospect Park together.
And what has the process been like preparing for this evening?
Well, we gave it a couple test runs before jumping into this, but I mean, to be honest, we've kind of done these before in live settings, so it kind of adapted pretty naturally from when we've done this in real life, as it were.
I hope my mic is going to be okay. Do you think it will?
Yeah, we'll let you know if we're up hearing you.
Okay, well, let me know. Nice, that's good to know.
For sure. And would you like to introduce the first cartoon that we'll be viewing?
Sure. The first one is the earliest of all the cartoons we're going to do. This is Coco, who was a slightly creepy clown character that Fleischer Studios had. And it's a very meta cartoon. And there's a lot of back and forth between Coco and the cartoon artist in this one.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Take it away. This is Astroturf Noise. And here is Coco. Fantastic. That's really fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what is that process like? Are you able to hear one another in a way that enough mimics performing live? Or is it just altogether frustrating?
I've heard each other. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's a little different. I mean, just in that I find it's harder to like rhythmically lock in super tightly. So you kind of have to lean into like slightly more impressionistic and loose atmospheric things together. So that kind of changes how you play together a little bit. But I mean, but basically I can hear everybody and can respond to people.
Terrific. And would you like to tell us a little bit about that cartoon, any anecdotes, or what in particular about Coco caught your eye?
Well, I love just like the back and forth with the animator. It seems like a very kind of pleasantly and ahead of its time meta cartoon for 1926. But I guess this is the one that kind of put them on the map in the first place. That jumping out of the cartoon panel series that Fleischer Studios did started in like 1919. So it's kind of the initial kernel of Fleischer Studios in a way.
Awesome. And Sana and Zach, do you ever elbow Sam and say we would rather, do XYZ cartoon, or are you all always on the same page?
Well, for this, for instance, Sam sent us out sort of a bunch of cartoons as options, and we threw some ideas back and forth. But so normally it's like picking our favorites out of a selection.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, and to be honest, this is the first time we've done it where it's just been like wide open. In the past, when we've done it, it's like for Halloween. So we're like specifically going through just spooky cartoons.
Awesome. Well, would you like to introduce the next cartoon for us?
Yeah, sure. The next one is Minnie the Moocher, and this was one that in its original form they had Cab Calloway playing the soundtrack. And I think this was the first cartoon to use rotoscoping, which is like using a human body and filming that, and then tracing the animation based on the movements of a human body to make the animation more realistic.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, take it away whenever you're ready, and we'll switch the screen back to the cartoons. Excellent, guys. Cool. Thanks so
Thanks.
much. Thank you. That was really enjoyable, but this time slightly terrifying.
Yeah. Very.
It's a common feature of these Fleischer cartoons.
Did you all want to take a break between cartoons, or would you like to maybe chat individually now for a moment?
Sure,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah, let's chat.
Awesome. Let's start. Let's go from left to right. So, Sana, would you like to tell us a little bit about what genres would you say your music encompasses in your other work?
In my other work, I do all sorts of things. My main thing is creative music, where I just write and play whatever I feel like to do. But then also I love all sorts of other things. I do jazz, classical, Latin music, bluegrass, um, yeah, everything else. But yeah, my main thing is my own stuff. But then I do other stuff.
Great. And what are the names of your other projects?
My other projects, the bands are called. I have a band that's called Smashing Humans and Atomic Pigeons, also Peach and Tomato. Those are my main things that I write for.
Very cool. And what has quarantine been like for the process of creating those other projects?
It's hard. It's hard. It's been hard because I've been more focused on other stuff like my immigration status and visa, and I had to reapply and all this stuff. I have an album that finished recording and mastering. And yeah, I wanted to release it, but it's just like not as simple right now because of all these things. So I'm thinking of releasing some live performance videos with some of the videographers who took videos of our performance on March 1st. And in terms of the CD release, I think it will take a bit more time. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we hope it will.
Understandable. Yeah. Unfortunately, no one knows, I guess. And Sam, are you still with us?
Yeah. Hey.
And would you like to tell us a little bit about your other projects?
Yeah. Sure. Well, one that Zach is also involved in is called Margaritaville, and that one does big sort of free jazz deconstructions of the Jimmy Buffett song Margaritaville with like 25 to 30 people usually. We've been mostly playing on public access stations in New York and Long Island. And then, let's see, with Nolan, a good friend of mine, we have a sort of eclectic electro pop project called Salon Man. And I do a lot of sound painting stuff, which is like a conducted improv language using hand gestures. So I play with Walter Thompson Orchestra and some other people doing things along those lines. And let's see. I also have some other sort of recording projects that are just kind of cooking around right now in quarantine. With Celeste, I'm doing some klezmer dub right now, which has been a fun process, learning about dub production a little bit more and experimenting with that. So yeah, those are some of the main things cooking right now.
Very cool. And would you mind telling listeners a little bit about sound painting for those of us who don't know what that is?
Yeah, so it's a way of doing spontaneous composition with hand gestures, sort of like a sign language for composition. And at this point, it's over 1,200 gestures, and it's an interdisciplinary thing. So one sign, like a long tone, might mean one thing for a musician, just going ah, but it might mean like a slow, gradual movement for a dancer, and it might mean like a held sound of some kind for an actor. So it's like a very immediate way to produce interdisciplinary works, and spontaneously can create pretty layered compositions with mixed ensembles, and it's an interesting way of doing kind of radical spontaneous work.
Very cool. Let's check in next with Zach. And Zach, what other projects are you up to when you're not busy staying indoors all day?
Yeah, as a bass player, I'm often accompanying other people's projects, but of my own, I go with Derek Michaels, a saxophone player, and Darius Najo, who's the drummer from. So we recorded an album last year, then just as a really as another improvised project with violinist Tom Swafford, where we just play string duo.
Very cool. And are you able to continue creating even in quarantine with everyone?
Yeah, it's sort of it's an interesting time for everyone, of course, but I've sort of put production on those projects on hold for the time being and just focusing on practicing and other work right now.
Understandable. And would anyone like to say a word about the next cartoons that you are queuing up?
Yeah, sure. Well, the next one we're going to do is Snow White, which was Sana's pick. What drew you to this one, Sana?
I don't know. I like Snow White. I don't know. I mean, it's creepy, scary. I like the story. I don't know. I just like it. Yeah.
Very cool. And whenever you're ready, we can
it's
cue it up.
like kind of like it would definitely give like a lot of things for like a women's study or gender studies class to sort of work through in an extended way.
Yeah.
And then the one after that is Red Hot Mama, which is another one set in hell. So there's quite a lot of fun devils and demons in that one.
Very cool.
Yay.
Well, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Cool.
And since we're in a live stream environment, I'm just going to cue the applause sound one more time. So coming up next is Snow White. Very nice, everyone. Thank you. I'm this awkward audience of one who is saying things randomly. It's like I get the privilege of being the sole.
Thank you for being the audience stand-in. It's almost like the real thing.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and believe it or not, we actually have been joined by a handful of people, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
So, and I'll go ahead and read to you some of the comments because you actually have been getting some. So, firstly, Erica Mancini said something to the effect of, "Oh, here it is. Hey, everyone, this is awesome." And unfortunately, there's a slight glitch right now, so that the comments people are seeing on the screen are actually only viewable for us if they're on the Benno Facebook page. So if you want to ask the band any questions, if you shift over to the Facebook page of Benno and comment on that one, then I can present them on the screen, or don't, and I can just I can speak them aloud. Lenore Falcone Pasquale says hi, guys. Erin Namenworth says hi. Steve LaRosa, it just says Steve is watching you, which is, I think, appropriately ominous for Steve LaRosa. And Morgan says cool illustrations and cool sounds too. Lynn Harmet says awesome. Amanda Bloom.
Got the mom approval there.
Yes. Yeah. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your creative process with Lynn Harmet?
Oh, well, we collaborate a lot. It's been a while, but over the years, I found her to be a reliable partner in flute playing. Believe it or not, for many, many months, Zach and I were playing at a place called Dirty French, and Sana sometimes too. And my mom lives in Madison, Wisconsin, but when she came to town, she was game to sit in and did some pretty excellent improvised flute playing. Mom Harmit is she's not too active musically these days, but when the flute comes out, good to happen.
That's great. And you come from a creative family. You mentioned sound painting earlier. I believe the founder, Walter, is your uncle. Could you speak a bit to your experience with studying with Walter?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a big musical influence throughout my life for sure. You know, from an early age, he was kind of slipping me Ornette Coleman CDs and, you know, just kind of introducing me to different ways of thinking about music. Yeah, I also just as a sort of a mentor is a kind of a model of how to construct a life and kind of sustainable career in music. He's been really helpful to have around too. And I've definitely gotten a lot studying sound painting with him over the years in terms of just conceptually some different approaches to improvisation and thinking about improv in some fresh ways. So yeah, big shout out to Walter for sure.
Awesome. And Sana, do you likewise come from a pretty musical family?
Not really. Well, my parents like music, listening to music. My dad played guitar a little bit, and he listened to like the Beatles and stuff like that. And my mom played piano a little bit. And yeah, I guess she was listening to stuff like, I don't know, Bill Evans and stuff like that a little bit. But yeah, not much. I just started playing violin when I was very young, and I just didn't have a chance to quit, basically.
And you teach as well currently, I believe?
I teach, yes. Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great. When you're not in all of your prolific projects.
Yep.
Great. And Zach, do you also come from a musical family?
Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy. Yeah, in a way. My parents are not performers of music, but they're both great music lovers, and I was exposed to a really broad range of music just all through my childhood and growing up. So that sort of like eclectic nature of music always stuck with me, and you know now I perform in a range of styles, probably from that early exposure.
Very cool. And forgive me, is there a further program of cartoons this evening you'd like to share?
Yeah, we do indeed have one more.
Fantastic. Would you like to tell us a bit about it and the name?
This is Red Hot Mama, and this is another one heavily focused on hellscapes and blurring the distinction between reality and fantasy quite a lot.
Very cool. Well, take it away whenever you're ready.
All right.
Oh, I feel so bad for the birds. Two birds in front of the stove, they died. they burned and then they got frozen.
Senseless.
Yeah, lifeless.
But they are just cartoon birds. If that's anything.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not like they're real.
It really is intense material for cartoons.
Yeah, it's really dark.
Yeah, the cartoons definitely got tamer over the years, I think.
Yeah, apparently there was like 34 was kind of the big turning point, because that's when the Hays Code came out, which was this document that was a sort of guidelines for morality in TV. And up until then, it was kind of a free-for-all, but all the Fleischer Studio stuff got a lot tamer after 1934.
Very cool. And what do you suppose the biggest shift was thereafter?
Well, it got a little bit more family-friendly. The outfits got a little bit less revealing. The overtly, like, over-the-top violent and sexual stuff kind of got toned down. And it went from being kind of more like an adult cartoon series to something for kids.
And for today's adult cartoon series, or any cartoon, what are some of the standouts to all of you?
Well, one thing, I'm not sure if this is directly answering your question, but just from doing these old cartoons, you sort of see the first example of what are now cartoon archetypes. So, for example, like the first time a character will walk into the room and the door gets like padlocked shut behind them. Nowadays we take that for granted, but it's kind of interesting to go back and see like where did that come from? These sort of things that everyone can relate to. So at least looking back at these early cartoons from the 30s and earlier, just like seeing the trajectory, what stayed current even to today is like pretty interesting.
Very cool. And have you been viewing any cartoons lately, or say even in the last weeks during quarantine?
Not other than these particular ones.
Very cool.
I've been watching more animes and stuff, not so much of like old cartoons.
Gotcha. And which anime?
There's one that's called Aggressive Resuko on Netflix, which is like super hilarious. It's from Japan. It's a story of it's from the same company that made Hello Kitty, but in modern time, and it's about this red panda who works in an office as a young girl, and yeah, it's a lot about the modern sexism in Japan and all this stuff. But yeah, it's hilarious. I highly recommend it. It has English subtitles, and a lot of my non-Japanese friends have been liking it, so it's my Japanese friends. So I highly recommend it.
Very cool. Very cool. And sorry, Sam, were you about to say something?
Well, I haven't been watching too many cartoons recently, but shout out to Ren and Stimpy, which was a very formative one for me. And watching all these Fleischer Studios cartoons, I definitely sort of get a deeper appreciation for the lineage that Ren and Stimpy came from, for sure.
Yeah.
That grotesque and over the top and sort of pushing the boundary of what polite animation can do.
Did you have any sense as a kid that something like Ren and Stimpy was grounded in such a rich past?
No, as a 6-year-old, I was just enjoying the immediate pleasure of Ren and Stimpy, I think.
I was very much hoping you might have even been so knowledgeable back then that would have been made for a story. But in closing...
Yes, and as I worked on my thesis about the connections between Fleischer Brothers and Ren and Stimpy as a 10-year-old.
And are there any other cartoons you'd like to present this evening?
I think that's all the ones we've got for you here.
All right, great. And just in case anyone didn't hear earlier, if you'd like to present the band with any Q&As, or excuse me, any questions for a Q&A, feel free to just go ahead and leave a comment in the live video, and it can pop up here for us. And aside from that, is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Well, if you haven't heard it, we've got a new album that's floating around on the internet. You can find it on Bandcamp or Spotify or Apple Music or any of the places. And it just came out in March. We were in late March, but of course that had to be postponed like everything. So hopefully we'll be able to bring it out into the world in a live way in the foreseeable future. But in the meantime, we'd love to share it with everybody. And if you haven't heard it, go check it out.
Awesome. What's the album called?
Self-titled, Astroturf Noise.
Great. And where did you record it?
Down the street from my place, actually, here in Brooklyn, at BC Studios with Martin BC. Wonderful guy who's been making noisy records since the late 70s. And in the same space, even in this gigantic basement studio in Gowanus.
Right. You've mentioned before that studio has a particularly large share of history. What else has been recorded there?
Sonic Youth did a bunch of their albums there in the early 80s. Live Skull, a lot of the, Bill Laswell projects were recorded there throughout the 80s. The list is huge. I mean, if you look on Martin's website and check out the discography of records he's done there, it's a little head spinning.
That's amazing. Was it intimidating at first, being in the space?
I don't think so. What did you guys think?
Not at all. I actually love the space. It's definitely got a unique vibe, and it's good for creativity for sure.
Very cool. And were you engineering, producing? Was the studio providing their own engineering?
Oh yeah, it's Martin BC's show for sure. It's very much like if you're recording there, he's also mixing it and engineering it, and he has a very specific way he likes to work. So
very cool. And what were some of the primary influences that would you say made their way into this particular album?
Well, Sana and I met at Carl Berger's Creative Music Studio, and that sensibility definitely is quite in it. This of a sort of open, free improv curiosity towards sound and texture and just a sort of like open-mindedness of constructing improvisation. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that?
To the way we make music?
Yeah. What sort of informs it?
Wow. I guess so. I mean, we started first, and then Zach is the last addition to the band, which completed the band. Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously there's the strain of bluegrass and folkiness, and all of us kind of independently had that side of our musical lives that has been going aside from the free improv and experimental side of what we're doing. So that was kind of like an interesting realization. Sana was playing in a bluegrass band for the time when we first met at Creative Music Studio. I had played in a lot of bluegrass groups, and Zach also has a pretty active life as a folk musician also.
That's incredible. For Sana and Zach, what was a turning point in which you began in your lives incorporating so many different genres? Because definitely having a wide variety of music in your sort of DNA, as well as improvising, it's so central in what you do, and you're such versatile musicians. What do you think has attracted you to this particular kind of existence?
For me, I mean, it's something that just came natural. I didn't set out to play a bunch of genres. Just as I was coming up, I played in jazz groups. I played in a youth symphony as a kid, chamber groups. So all of these sort of things were just always ongoing. And, as an adult, I sort of just kept the practice.
Pretty cool. And Sana?
It's kind of similar to what Zach described. I've been playing music since I was 3. took lessons on violin and got kind of tired of classical music in college. So I wanted to explore different stuff. So I started learning jazz. Not really because I wanted to do jazz or anything like that. It's more like I loved more like of contemporary music that came after classical music. And yeah, I like a lot of different things. I like jazz, and sometimes I do Latin music. Bluegrass and folk music is actually not really my territory, I think, in a way. But I happen to play in some of the groups, sometimes a little bit more of an like a open style of bluegrass and country music, and I enjoy playing them. Definitely this band, because this band is not so much just about that, but more of like the mixture of everything, and that's kind of where I stand as a musician. Yeah, I like all sorts of different stuff, and I don't like to think too hard about it and just do it.
And,
kind of.
And unlike the bluegrass tendencies here and in other projects, I believe one of your projects is a heavy metal project. Is that right?
Mine tends, I think so. I don't know if it's heavy metal, but it definitely has some more louder like rock vibe. It's called Atomic Pigeons, and also Smashing Humans. Smashing Humans is quintet. It's a little bigger. Maybe it has a little bit more of like a I don't know, like a jazz element to it. Although I don't know if people agree to it, but Atomic Pigeons is more like math rock, and Smashing Humans is a little bit more like, I don't know, jazz rock, or with some noise and stuff like that. Yeah.
And sorry if you saw my eyes betray me by just going around the screen. For some reason, every time we cut back over to Sana, an audience clap sound comes that I'm not controlling. But I'm very glad, though, that it's giving proper applause. Well, thanks so much for sharing. In summation, would you like to leave us with any notes about the best ways to find your album again?
Yeah, so I would head over to our Bandcamp page, and that's via 577 Records, which is our label and has been super helpful and cool about getting this out there. So thanks, guys, if you're watching. And aside from Bandcamp, it's on all the streaming platforms. So whatever your preferred thing is, feel free to find it there. Oh, and I should also say we have vinyl coming very soon. It has been shipped, and within the next few days, vinyl records of the album are going to be shipping out. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can order those on the Bandcamp page.
Amazing. And what's the URL for the Bandcamp?
It's 577records.bandcamp.com/astroturf noise, I think.
Okay. Awesome.
But otherwise, if you just type in Astroturf noise Bandcamp, it'll pop right up.
Okay. Excellent. Great. Well, thanks so much, everyone. And this was really lovely hearing your performances as well. Yeah.
Lauren, thank you, man. This was very fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and finish up the broadcast, and I'll stay on the Skype for a moment longer. Thank you, guys. Let's see if we can make the applause cue happen on purpose here.